made in India is actually beginning to appeal. So I would say brands should look at it. Look at it seriously, but first make sure you have a good, credible home base.
I'll tell you what I've learned to stay with. I've learned to stay with understanding it is my customer and my consumer and my audience. Now, if you keep watching them and watching their evolution, is what has made me stay true to what it is.
From a zero point that we had in COVID, today 1 out of every 6 parcels in my network is now a D2C brand parcel that we're doing. And I think that is phenomenal.
Forbes and DTDC, behind India's D2C revolution.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Forbes India and DTDC present Behind India's D2C revolution. If you are building a brand in India or thinking about starting one, stay with us. By the end of this conversation, you will not only see how a fashion brand built one of India's most recognizable identities, you will also understand how to create a brand people don't just buy, but choose to be associated with. Every episode in this series brings perspectives from founders shaping how India consumes, aspires, and decides. Joining us again is Abhishek Chakraborty, CEO of DTDC Express Limited, whose vantage point across thousands of brands and millions of deliveries gives him unique insight into what separates lasting brands from the rest. Today, we also explore fashion, identity, and building a brand that holds meaning at scale. For that, joining us is Akshika Poddar, co-founder of House of Rare, the company behind Rare Rabbit, a brand built on a clear idea of who it's for and what it wants them to feel. So let's start this conversation with two of my guests. And, Akshika, let's begin by one very famous saying in the world of fashion. It is that fashion brands sell products, but enduring ones sell a sense of self. You've always had that, clear-cut identity, the target audience for your brand. Was that intentional right from the start, or was it something that emerged as your brand grew?
So, it was very intentional right from the start. Like one of my favorite taglines for myself is the gap is in the mirror. So when I said gap is in the mirror, I saw myself struggling to find clothes that suit my personality and fit me rather than me fitting into them. And when I identified that gap, this was 10 years back. I think 10 years back is when I started ideating on this. And I launched Rarerism. So Rarerism is the sister brand of Rare Rabbit. And then we have other brands as well in the mix. I saw that there was a lot available, but it was not available with the right fits. And that's when I started Rarerism by identifying the gap, like you asked.
That's so amazing because you can clearly see the difference that it makes when you know your target audience and that client also comes to you. But Abhishek, if we talk about DTDC, now DTDC is one organization. You just told me that you are even older than 90% of your clients. So you have seen brands at every stage, essentially. What separates a brand's consumers return to it by preference or return to it by merely because of convenience?
I think convenience is always the starting point, at least for a lot of products that people want to buy. But the lasting nature of any brand and you as a consumer wanting to deal with them comes from what is that unique thing that they're bringing for you. And I guess in a space like fashion, very soon consumers start identifying themselves with what they're buying. It becomes a part of their personality. And therefore, the quality of the product, the story that the product is telling, what it makes them ultimately feel like becomes very essential. And therefore, as I've seen a lot of customers and brands that we've dealt with in this space, we've seen those brands that have had a consistent promise, stuck to it very well, but also ensured that they've matured with the lifestyle changes of their customers are the ones that their consumers keep coming back to and the ones we are very happy to continue to.
When it comes to menswear in India, it was predictable. Let's begin from there, So you spotted a certain gap in the market, something which was missing in the market before you articulated it. How do you build a business case around an instinct, essentially, when there is little or no data to really, back you up with that?
Like you said, instinct, right? So there is something, we've been travelers. we've seen the world and we saw India evolving. But what we saw India while it was evolving, the menswear category was very little. There was nothing smart available for that man who was shopping abroad. And we're like, let's bring this to India and test it. We tested it, it started working well, and then we kept expanding as the answer came from the way the audience responded.
Yeah. Abhishek, the brands that essentially stay the course, we have seen that they share more than category or even geography. It spreads as it grows in prominence. So, what founder mindset would you attribute most to this longevity that comes with a brand?
See, I think the initial years of a brand, the formative years, are always the toughest ones. And I think the real test of a good founder and the kind of business they're building out is pretty much seen in those early days. But as I think brands start finding their feet, they start finding a stable, category and a stable set of consumers. I think the choices that they make then on how they will scale and how they will grow, are they in it for the long run versus are they here to just make a quick buck and try to, uh, be more investor centric rather than consumer centric. I think I have seen that play itself out. I've had customers that had, or two kinds of brands that I've dealt with that had the same promise. Maybe one of them was more attractive from the number of orders they used to get, whether physical or digital orders. But I clearly could see at some point one of those founders chose to let the value and valuations in those stories influence the kind of choices they made, versus another brand that chose to stay small but focused, play the long game, maybe go through those difficult years, and then saw that growth.
So let's now go specific into certain domains. When we talk about design as a point of view, Akshika, I want to specifically talk to you about Rare Rabbit's The Walk, which is in its sixth edition. So, what does The Walk essentially communicate beyond the product? I want you to delve on that. And what is special about this edition?
So, walk started, the first walk, which was, I think, this is walk six,
Yeah.
you're talking about. Walk one was just about movement. We are a very fast moving, and when I say fast moving, I'm not talking about scale, etc. You'll never see us sitting at our desks. We don't have desks, we don't have cabins in our company. So it was a lot of movement. Now we said, okay, we don't want to do a ramp, and we did one fashion show somewhere, and we're like, no, this is not us. How do we bring about our collection to the audience in a fluid movement? Now that started as the first walk, then it evolved into another dance. Walk has always been about a different kind of movement in your life. Edition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cut to 6. We wanted to do this as a very contrasting. If you see, the green color is the background, and a very bright fuchsia pink. It contrasts your moods. It contrasts nature versus maximalism, right? It's not maximalism through a lot of elements, but it's just that bright color that brings in nature, and we're trying to be sustainable as much as possible. So how does that integrate into fashion? There are a lot of thoughts that go behind that, and that's what we try to do.
That's fantastic to note. A lot of thoughts that go behind what people are ultimately wearing.
Yes.
So it's not like mindless fashion. There is a lot of thought put into it. Abhishek, let's talk about logistics here. Logistics really shape a brand's experience post-purchase.
Yeah.
So how has DTDC particularly changed with evolving D2C expectations? Because they are also evolving on a daily basis. How do you cope up?
See, I think understanding your customer, which is the brands, but also understanding their consumer was an important learning we had. I think in the early years when we started working with companies, we thought a package is a package. At least that was a nascent early understanding. But we realized that it's not the same. The category, the consumer's expectations, the kind of SKUs that are being handled, what kind of quality that they're looking to deliver, what are the risks and returns that they are facing from their product. All of that started factoring in. So for us as a logistics company, making that transition and understanding that was, I think, one of the keys to success. So much so that there was a point in the early stage of our work with D2C brands where we were probably working a lot more with these large marketplaces, right? Where we would deal with the marketplace, but not with the actual brand. But we found so much of interest and passion in the D2C brands and what they were doing and what it meant for us. In 2020, when in the middle of COVID, when we reshaped our entire e-commerce logistics business, we said we don't want to work with marketplaces. We want to only work with D2C brands and their owners because it needs that kind of attention. It needs that kind of focus. And we're quite proud about the fact that we've been generously rewarded by those brands, that from a zero point that we had in COVID, today 1 out of every 6 parcels in my network is now a D2C brand parcel that we're doing. And I think that is phenomenal. And yet it's not one kind of D2C brand that we're doing. It's multiple categories, multiple products, whether there's fashion, there's wellness, there's food products. But all of that means that you need to understand the brand, their philosophy, but also their consumers quite well.
So, Abhishek, when we come to serving a customer, in a remote district, as reliably as one in, let's say, South Mumbai or maybe Indiranagar, it involves infrastructure, economics, and culture. Everything comes into play. Which was toughest for you out of these three, and how do you continue to solve these problems which keep on emerging regularly?
I think infrastructure is always going to be the most important
Even
thing.
now?
At least I would say from how the journey has evolved, because while we have all this focus on how the metropolitan or urban development of India is going on, we talk about the India versus Bharat story. I think the Bharat story, for what it is being connoted as, is still playing out. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. There's a lot of development that's still happening. What is good is that now, in the last couple of years, the aspiration has started accelerating faster than the rate at which the infrastructure was created, which means now there's a massive incentive for all players, whether it's government or private players like us, to start putting in far more infrastructure in there. But at the same time, we've realized that it's not only about hard infrastructure, it's also a lot about digital infrastructure. And that's where I think our disproportionate investments have gone in. Just to give you a simple case in point, when we launched our own chatbot, we call it DTDC Interactive Virtual Assistant, DIVA in short, we got it integrated with 17 Indian languages. It's the only large language model of its kind for our industry in Southeast Asia, which means it's not just the city people who can talk in Hindi or English or a local South Indian language or whatever. They can now talk in a mixed language. They can speak in Bhojpuri. They can write Bhojpuri in English or Hindi script put together, and we should be able to respond to them. Because that demand from Bharat needs different solutions.
That's why I thought you will say culture is the biggest problem. Different sort of, cultures that come into play in our country, and catering to that.
You're right. But the way to solve for culture is making sure that your infrastructure addresses for that. You don't ask your consumers to adapt to you. You need to adapt to your consumers. And these consumers of Bharat are very, very powerful. Anyone who's not paying attention to them is already getting outdated. I firmly believe in that. I'm sure Akshika will
I would
agree
love
with
to.
that.
Actually, I forgot the culture part, because we cater to diverse India, right? And there's so many cultures out there, and the audience that we have is belonging to from southwest. Every little region within the region as well is so different. So catering to that is inclusivity for us.
Yeah. So that brings both of you together on the table and merges both the areas as well. Now, Akshika, if we talk about bringing in multiple brands under House of Rare, now it bets on a very strong architecture. How do you preserve each brand's distinctiveness, as we see in your products, while making the house meaningful for everyone?
So, we have different audiences for all the brands that we have. One is for man, one is for woman, one is for kids, and then it's shoes. So, but the design, the philosophy, and the value of the entire company is the same. So we started them as individual brands, as in when we felt the gap was there, and distinct choices and distinct requirements. But when the philosophy remains the same, it's better to bring them under one House of Rare. And that's where our stores now and our website has all become one. And it caters to different audiences, but the same philosophy.
Right. And DTDC also has verticals like Worldwide for cross-border and Raftar.
Yeah.
So, which is your rapid commerce solution.
Yeah.
Now, when should a new venture earn its own identity is my question to you, instead of borrowing the parents' credibility?
See, I think if something is a unique offering that is catering to a space which is being defined as we speak, I think trying to have a brand identity is important. But I fully agree with Akshika. The architecture must still resonate across those brands that you create. Because at the end of the day, if you are a company or a business that's been around for a while, people know that any brand or any new product that you launch, does it still have the ethos and the values that your parent brand carries? So in our case, for example, when we do rapid commerce, our tagline says we are rapid B, smart B. And that smart comes from the fact that we will do speed, but we will not do speed by burning a hole in my consumer's pocket, which is what DTDC has always stood for.
Yes.
When we do worldwide, the story over there is we are not just any other international company. We're an Indian multinational company. And our products and solutions are tailored for Indians and South Asian businesses from India to the world and vice versa. Because that's what people would associate what DTDC can do different from any other large international integrator of sorts.
True.
So while you create those brands, you still know that the core promise, the core philosophy of the parent must be resonated. Otherwise, you're talking about disparate children being created, but somewhere, the value of the parent is never then therefore leveraged. Or vice versa, the parent is not gaining from the child's success. Right? So my key thing which I ask a brand or work with a brand and say is that, A, do you first of all have a great appeal in your home market? That's number one. Number two, we do have an advantage. When you are able to sell to Indians, you're actually able to sell to another 400, 500 million people of the similar diaspora, similar demand and sentiments across the world.
Very true, yeah.
So that becomes a great appeal. And in the last 10 years, especially post-COVID, the need for Indian products is amazing. Recently, I was in an international forum with our partners who serve the Russian market. He was just showing me what is the demand that Russian consumers have for an Indian product. And they choose an Indian product over a Chinese or an American or whatever.
Wow.
Now that is finally becoming, so India, made in India is actually beginning to appeal. So I would say brands should look at it, look at it seriously, but first make sure you have a good, credible home base, then start expanding into it. Otherwise, it could be risky. And
That's
could
a great
burn your
piece of
whole-
advice. So my next question is actually to both of you, and maybe Akshika, you can start by answering this. When we look at both your businesses today, they are very different from what they were 5 years ago. We can safely say that when we talk about consumer, competition, and tools that have evolved over the years. So staying relevant requires certain choices that you have been, either forced to make or you consciously made. What have you had to unlearn or leave behind to stay sharp?
So, you know what I have learned? I'll tell you what I've learned to stay with. I've learned to stay with understanding first and foremost, it is my customer and my consumer and my audience. Now, if you keep watching them and watching their evolution, is what has made me stay true to what it is. What has taught me is how much more tech you can build in, how much more relevance, all of the, let's say, the emotional aspect, which is my consumer, stays where it is. But how I need to speed up is the LLMs, the new AI models, and the tech and data that you have to work with today. That's separate for operations. So I have two clear distinctions between both these arms, and I treat that differently. My designers don't have to be tech driven. My buyers and my planners don't have to be tech driven. They have to be tech driven when they're putting it on paper, but they have to first go and understand the consumer. Then the back end team works on tech.
Okay, and
It's a
Abhishek,
very
for you?
different connection altogether.
And that helps a lot.
A lot.
Absolutely.
Yes, that helps me stay relevant and yet speed.
For you, Abhishek, what would that be?
I think definitely I agree with Akshika for most of the points. And I would say, maybe I'll use the same format, that what did we stay with? I think we stayed with the fact that the sense of partnership with which our company was built. We've got 16,500 entrepreneurs who make up our network. They're all exclusive and work with us. And that sense of partnership is something we've never given up. Because these are the people who keep us very close to our consumers and keep reminding us that no matter how digital businesses become, the physical touch, the ability to be present humanly with your consumers is very, very important in a business like ours. That has always stayed with us. What we've let go of is we don't say, oh, we are 35 years old. We like to say we are a 35-year young company. We don't want to carry the tag of some heavyweight. We are learning. We make plenty of mistakes. And that's the reason, our technological choices, like Akshika said, are now very much different. And also the composition of our team is very different, because we have a far more number of Gen Z people or the younger crowd that's now part of our teams. Because my mandate is very simple. I'm building products for the consumers of today and tomorrow. So if my team members are not belonging to the same age group as my consumers, we are going to go behind.
Absolutely.
And that change post-COVID for us has been a massive, massive boost for our brand, for our business, and of course, for the difference that we're making for our customers.
Great. So by and large, we've covered all the major points of conversation with both of you. But I have a very interesting rapid fire round lined up. So let's start with you, Akshika. One question. You wish founders asked more?
It has to be rapid, right? Okay.
Yeah.
What made you stay when things were tough?
Good one. So a proudest achievement at House of Rare for you?
My repeat customer rate.
If you could design a garment capturing Bharat, what would it look like?
The number of occasions one garment can fit in a woman's or man's day.
Great.
You know how many moments we have in Bharat, yes.
A fashion trend you wish would vanish.
Something that makes you force fit yourself into. I just detest the fact that somebody has to force fit themselves because of trend.
All right. Well done, Akshika. That was a
Thank
fantastic rapid fire. I hope I didn't trouble you much on that.
You did a little bit, but that's fine.
But Abhishek, it's your turn now.
Okay.
So let's start with the first question. What do you read first from a brand's packaging?
I think the story that packaging is telling me. Every brand has a story. If you give me a boring package with just a label and expect me to trust it, I don't like it. I like a bit of story in it. What is this? Where does it come from? Who made it? That matters a lot.
The metric that founders obsess over that actually tells you very little.
Well, yes, we all obsess about whether we're making the bottom line, whether those margins are coming. But yes, it does not tell you much beyond the fact that this company is good. But what made it good is not the number, profitability, because profitability is an outcome. It's the input that went into that brand is what people should be asking. That produces that output.
Okay.
So good.
Oh, so well said. Na? Biggest lesson from watching brands like House of Rare grow?
I'll tell you a bit of a story. It'll be slightly longer. When I bought my first Rare Rabbit t-shirt about 6 years back, I literally went in thinking this is an international company that's launched in India.
Okay.
Right? And I think that to me is so fantastic. That a company that chooses to be modern and global, even in its early days, and not try to appeal to what's popular now, and then try to have that global appeal. That is bravado of a different kind, and maybe that's the reason brands like Rare Rabbit and the House of Rare are successful. That's
And
my
I have
oldest
to
memory.
admit that happened with me when I bought my first Rareism top. So
Those.
it is, I think, quite a commendable.
It was 3 years later that I realized this
Yeah.
is a homegrown Indian.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean,
Yes.
We get that a lot, but yes, we
Yeah,
wanted to bring the correct experience rather than following.
No, it's
So-
incredible.
Thank you.
Next question for you, Abhishek. A founder habit that looks like a weakness but is actually a strength.
People say founders are hustlers. You try to get into everything. You try to be a jack of all trades. People think we are masters of none. I think we are masters of a few at least. But I think it's this hustling quality that gets you almost every day waking up with what I call healthy paranoia. A founder always is worried he's underdoing, he's not good enough. And a founder always feels like an imposter. But that's what keeps pushing their boundaries and
I
keep
had
going.
the same moment this morning.
It happens.
So that's healthy.
Every day.
It's very healthy.
healthy.
Right.
It's very
Last
healthy,
question to
yeah.
you. The one decision that defined how you lead.
I think the fact that I chose to not just stick to what we were good at, but continue to push our boundaries and find the next new thing while not letting go of our values. Very paradoxical choice. Keeps us constrained all the time or makes us, being pulled in different directions. But it's what keeps us moving forward in the right direction and keeps us growing. So that's the choice which I made, which I'm quite proud and happy about.
All right. Well done, Abhishek, to you as well. Thank you so much, both of you, for a fabulous conversation. It was lovely talking to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So, as you know, brand is not what you sell, it's what people feel when they choose you. Akshika and Abhishek have shown us today that the most enduring businesses are built on identity, not just inventory. So thank you for being with us on this episode of Forbes India and DTDC present Behind India's D2C Revolution.
Forbes and DTDC, behind India's D2C revolution.